Hi, I'm Jake and I'm 29 years old. I come from Denver, Colorado and have always been just your average kid trying to navigate through life. I had some rough patches with my past memories which weighed me down, but I got through it all eventually. So, I come from a family of 5, which basically includes my mom and dad, me and my 2 older brothers, Mike and Taylor. My childhood was pretty awesome, as I had been gaming since I was practically a baby, all thanks to Taylor and Mike. They got me hooked early on, from gaming marathons to shooting hoops and tossing the pigskin around. I loved playing games and was all about that fun. Oh, and let me tell you, I was crazy about dogs. They were my absolute favorite. Ever since I was a little kid, I was all about dogs. I can't exactly pinpoint when this happened, but my whole world started revolving around them, piece by piece. I would bug my parents non-stop, begging for a dog. I would be at it day and night and would try to convince them one way or another. They weren't totally against the idea, but they thought it would be a handful to take care of. Still, I promised them that I would handle everything and not let it be a bother at all. Mom, Dad, can we please get a dog? I promise I will take care of it. Sweetheart, we have talked about this before. Having a dog is a big responsibility. Are you sure you are ready for it? Yes, Mom, I'm absolutely sure. I will feed it, walk it, and even clean up after it. Believe me, I know exactly what it takes to care for a dog. It's not just about taking care of the dog, Jake. We have to consider things like allergies, our work schedules, and whether we have enough space for a pet. But Dad, I have been doing my research. There are hypoallergenic breeds, and I will make sure the dog gets plenty of exercise, even if it means waking up early to go for walks. I'm not sure, son. Dogs require a lot of time, attention, and money. Are you prepared for all of that? I understand, Dad, but I have been wanting a dog for so long. I promise I won't let you down. We'll see about it, Jake. After my constant cries, my parents finally gave in and bought me a golden retriever. I started calling him Max because it just fit him perfectly, and Max became the star of the show real quick. Even my parents, who were dead set against getting a dog, could not resist falling head over heels for him. Back in the day, my best memories were all about our family's golden retriever, Max. We were like peas in a pod and were always off, exploring the woods or tearing up the backyard together for hours on end. But then, one sunny afternoon, everything changed. There was an awful accident that left me banged up inside and out. It was rough, to say the least. What went down was that I was at the park with Max and we were playing fetch like we always used to do. Then, out of nowhere, he spotted a squirrel, took off like a rocket, and pulled me along for the ride. The next thing I knew, I was face planted into a sharp and hidden rock in the grass which slashed a big cut on the left side of my face. It was like time froze for a second and then pain hit me like a ton of bricks. And not just an ordinary sting, I am talking about searing agony, adrenaline pumping, and my brain trying to catch up with what just went down. The burn of the cut on my cheek and the panic of the moment had me freaking out so much. I started yelling for help, and poor Max came back, looking all worried. Luckily, some people were passing by, and they quickly came to my aid. They got Max under control and rushed me to the ER. Despite the doctor's best efforts, that scar became a permanent part of my story, all thanks to me and Max's little adventure. So, after that whole mess, my trust in Max took a serious hit. Like, I used to be so chill with animals, especially dogs, but suddenly I was second-guessing everything. But over time, I realized that it was not really his fault and we had some killer memories together, even after what happened. I came to see that even though I had this gnarly scar now, our bond was still rock solid. But the scar was like a permanent fixture on my face now and there was nothing I could do about it. It starts just under my left eye and makes this diagonal journey down to my jawline. My once smooth skin was now an ugly reminder of that day. When it first happened, I was in this total daze, like I could not believe it was real. The pain was bad, but the emotional roller coaster was on a whole other level. When I touched that scar for the first time, I remember all my insecurities just flooded in. I couldn't shake the feeling of how people would see me now that I had this thing on my face. It got to the point where I would avoid going out altogether, just because of this dumb scar. And I was only 9 when it all went down, so it did hit me pretty hard. Mom, Dad, I don't like this scar on my face. It's so ugly. Honey, I know it might seem like a big deal right now, but don't let it get to you, okay? You know, scars are like badges of honor. They show that you have been through something tough and came out on the other side. Yeah, kiddo, remember that time I told you about the time I fell off my bike and got a scar on my knee? I used to feel embarrassed about it too, but now it is just a cool story to tell. But what if it never goes away? What if I'm stuck with it forever? Well, even if it does stick around, it is a part of what makes you unique. And trust me, as you grow older, you will realize that people don't care about things like scars as much as you think they do. Exactly. And besides, we love you just the way you are, scar and all. Nothing could ever change that. I guess you are right. I will try not to worry about it so much. Then as I got older, I kind of got used to this scar of mine. Yeah, people would ask about it and would often give me those sideways looks. Some would even stare at it weirdly, but I just rolled with it. After a while, it did not really faze me anymore. That is all until high school hit. High school was a nightmare. I swear, I did not do anything to deserve the crap that I went through, but life is unfair like that sometimes, and it did me bad. The first day of school is literally burned into my brain. I was walking down the hall and was trying to blend in, but it was like I had this spotlight on me or something. Whispers, giggles, and you name it. I knew all of this was because of that scar of mine. It was like a neon sign drawing all the wrong kinds of attention. Then there was this group of kids who thought they were all that and owned the whole school. That group was led by Jaden, the king of bullies. The first time I crossed paths with him, I knew he was bad news. And let's just say that he lived up to that reputation. So, as I mentioned earlier, I have always been into sports, and in high school, I decided to give soccer a shot. I talked it over with the sports department and our PE teacher, and they told me to head over to the soccer field for tryouts. Now, let me tell you about Jaden. He was like the king of bullies, and the whole school knew about it. I had been warned to steer clear of him because he does not mess around. So, there I was, walking nervously to the schoolyard, feeling like I was about to face a firing squad. And then bam, there he was, standing right in front of me, all sneers and attitude. My heart was pounding as I geared up for whatever was coming my way. Well, what do we have here? Looks like we have got ourselves a new kid with a fancy scar. Hi, I'm, save it, Scarface. I don't need your name or your life story. I just want to know one thing: are you tough enough to survive in this school? I don't want any trouble, Jaden. Oh, you don't want trouble? Well, too bad. Now that you're here, I'm afraid you will find all the trouble. Where are you headed, Scarface? I am just on my way to the soccer club. Soccer club? Ain't no way you are getting in that club till I'm there. Back off, you little creep. Things just kept going downhill from there. Jaden made it his mission to make my life a living hell. He would never let up and was always going on about my scar and just generally being a jerk. It got to the point where I was a nervous wreck and was always on edge and super self-conscious about myself. My parents started noticing something was off with me and would question me again and again, but I kept it all bottled up. I was too scared to speak up and was too afraid of what Jaden might do if I did. Then one day, I turned the corner in the hallway, and bam, there was Jaden, and he was leaning against my locker like he owned the place. That stupid smirk of his was practically taunting me, and I just knew what I was in for. Well, if it isn't Scarface himself. What is the matter, buddy? Can't hide that ugly scar of yours. His cronies laughed and their voices echoed off the walls, which added to the humiliation that was burning in my chest. Leave me alone, Jaden. I don't have time for your sick activities. You think you are tough just because of that little scar, huh? Let me show you what real toughness looks like. Before I could react, Jake literally shoved me against the lockers, and his fists were clenched and ready to strike. The scar on my face throbbed with pain as it always did when held closely. Jaden, stop. I didn't do anything to you. I was bracing myself for whatever Jaden had planned next. He was about to throw a punch when out of nowhere we heard footsteps coming down the hall, and it was Terry. Jaden bolted like he had seen a ghost and shot me one last evil glare before disappearing into the crowd. Even though the tiny bruises that I had gotten from Jaden would heal, the scars they had left behind would stick around for ages. I kept telling myself it would all be over once high school was done and everyone would go their separate ways and I would never have to deal with him again. And it actually did end after high school. Everyone just scattered and ended up going on their own path, and I never had to see Jaden again. I got into the University of Washington and figured it was time for me to get my studies on. I always had a thing for the environment, so I signed up for the Environmental Science and Terrestrial Resource Management program. From there on, life just zoomed by like a roller coaster. During my undergrad days, I was all about getting my hands dirty with research in environmental science. I snagged some summer internships with environmental groups and did my own independent projects, and even lent a hand to some professors with their research gigs. Once I wrapped up undergrad, I headed back to Colorado for my master's in environmental science. I went all in and specialized in climate change and ecosystem dynamics. During my grad school, I teamed up with other researchers and shared my findings at conferences, and even got some papers published in top-notch journals. People started noticing my hustle and my hard work, which was pretty cool. And so, after wrapping up my master's, I dove headfirst into a whole new gig as an environmental researcher. I scored a spot at Sires in Colorado, where I kept digging into how climate change messes with mountain ecosystems. I was knee-deep in projects that were aimed at helping to shape conservation strategies and policy decisions. It was a big deal for me and was like a major leap forward in my career. I mean, I had never thought I would come this far, but my hard work really did pay off. Finally, things were looking up, and I knew that stupid scar on my face was not going to hold me back from doing big things. In the midst of all this hustle, I crossed paths with my now wife, Ava. I was not really that big on hitting up social scenes, but I ended up going to this small house party thrown by a buddy we both knew. That was where I first laid eyes on her. I was involved in some research stuff at the time, while Ava was an art student and was all about art. I still remember her energy was so contagious. We hit it off right away and chatted up a storm, and as it turns out, we both had this deep love for nature, and our different viewpoints just clicked together perfectly. Excuse me, mind if I join? Oh, not at all. I'm Ava. Nice to meet you, Ava. I've been watching you from the corner. I have to say your laugh is infectious. Well, thanks for the compliment. What's your name? Oh yeah, I totally forgot to introduce myself. I'm Jake. I'm an environment science major. Ooh, that's quite interesting. I too find inspiration in the little details of nature. That's fascinating. Nature's been a big part of my life too. Currently, I'm researching ways to mitigate the impact of deforestation on local ecosystems. It's challenging but rewarding work. Wow, that sounds important. I'm an art major myself, and I'm focusing on capturing the beauty of nature through my paintings. That's amazing. I've always admired how artists can convey the essence of nature through their work. Your paintings must be stunning. Thank you. I'd love to show you some of my pieces sometime. I'd love to see them. Say, would you like to grab a coffee sometime and chat more about our shared love for nature? I'd really enjoy that, Jake. Even though Ava and I both grew up in Colorado, our paths had never really crossed until later on. I gotta say, though, that I was always blown away by Ava's artistic skills. The way she could bring a blank canvas to life was just unreal. From the start, I knew there was something special about her. The passion in her eyes when she talked about art, the way her hands moved with such grace across the canvas, all of it was simply mesmerizing. And the thing about her that really got me was the fact that Ava never once made a big deal about the scar on my face. Instead of freaking out or feeling sorry for me, she just accepted me for who I was, be it scars or not. She did not shy away from asking about it either, but it was more out of curiosity and understanding than anything else. It was like she saw past the surface and really understood me. Aren't you curious about this scar on my face? You have never once asked me about it. The scar doesn't bother me, Jake, and I figured you would tell me once you were comfortable enough. This scar, it's from an accident I had when I was younger. I was playing with my dog Max and he suddenly started running. I fell face forward and a stone dug into my skin and scratched it through, and it left this mark. Ooh, I had no idea. But you know what? This scar, it doesn't change how I feel about you. In fact, it only makes me admire you more. Really? You are not bothered by it? Not at all. It's a part of who you are, Jake. I wouldn't change a thing about you. Thank you, Ava. You have no idea how much that means to me. Ava and I hit it off in quite a short time and went through all kinds of milestones together. We dated for about 5 years and then decided to tie the knot. Watching Ava's art career unfold over the years has been an amazing experience for me. She had started off on the creative team at this magazine, and then bam, she had scored her dream gig as the art director. She was so excited and over the moon about it, it was awesome to see. Married life had been treating us pretty darn well, and then one day out of the blue I got a call from my old high school buddy Alex. So Alex was like the social butterfly of our high school group. He knew literally everyone and was close with all the people in the room, but he was the only dude I kept in touch with from back in the days of high school. He even showed up to my wedding with Sarah, his fiancée, and it turns out Ava and Sarah had hit it off pretty well too. Anyway, Alex called me and hit me up with some big news that he was getting married next month. He was so stoked about it and had decided to invite all our old high school crew. They were throwing this huge wedding bash, and he thought it would be a killer chance for us to catch up and relive the old days. Hi Jake, it's Alex. How are you, man? Hey man, long time no see. I'm good. How are you? How's it going? Yeah, it's been ages. Things are good, really good actually. I wanted to catch up with you because I'm getting married. Whoa, congratulations. That's amazing news. I'm genuinely happy for you. When's the big day? Thanks, man, I appreciate it. The wedding is in 2 months, and I would be thrilled if you could make it. Of course I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Where's the venue? I'm sending you the invite in a second. It's a bit of a drive for you, but it would mean a lot to have you there. Not a problem at all. I'll make the trip. Also, it's been a huge task, man, and that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about. Jake, I could really use your help with some wedding stuff. Of course, anything you need. What do you need help with? Well, you know I'm not the most organized guy, and this wedding planning is overwhelming. I remember you did a great job with your own wedding. Can you give me some tips or maybe even help me with the logistics? Absolutely. I'd be happy to help. Planning a wedding can definitely be overwhelming. Let's sit down someday and go over everything you need to do. Thanks, man, I really appreciate it. I want this day to be perfect for my fiancé, and having your experience and support means a lot to me. No problem at all. We'll make sure everything goes smoothly and your wedding will be amazing. Just let me know what you need and we'll tackle it together. While Alex and I were totally engrossed in wedding planning for the next few months, we ended up getting even closer in the process. Alex knew all about my high school days and even the Jaden drama. I remember asking him if Jaden was on the guest list and he said yeah, he had invited him. Alex was always the peacemaker type and never held grudges with anyone, so I had already figured he would have invited him too. I thought maybe Jaden had mellowed out over the years and had left all that high school drama in the past. But man, was I wrong. Alex had filled me in on the scoop during the shopping days, and as it turns out, Jaden was still up to his old tricks. He has been getting into fights left and right at whatever job he landed and was getting himself canned in the process. His aggressive attitude had become a real curse for him nowadays. And to top it all off, he was also flying solo in the love department too. Hearing all that, it hit me that Jaden was finally getting what was coming to him. It was like karma had caught up with him, and he was now paying back for all the crap he had put me through back in the day. Fast forward to the wedding day, I was making my way through the packed ballroom, trying to find Avia. And then, out of nowhere, I heard my high school name being called out aloud. I spun around to see who it was, and it was none other than Jaden himself. He still had that cocky vibe radiating off him, and that same old smirk plastered on his face. Well, look, who decided to show up? Didn't expect to see you here, Scarface. Despite his messed up life, he was still making comments about other people. Still haven't outgrown your need to belittle others, huh, Jaden? What's the matter, huh? Afraid I'll ruin your precious little friend's big day? Maybe I should remind everyone here what a pathetic loser you were in high school. I'm not that scared kid you used to push around anymore, Jaden, and if you can't handle that, then maybe you should take your toxic attitude elsewhere. Huh, I see your mouth is yapping too much now. Guess you finally learned to talk, huh? Where did this change come from? From a stable life and secure future. One I think you can't afford. Jaden turned white on my comment, and I could literally see him fuming with anger on the inside. You think you're so smart and mighty now, huh, Scarface? But even then, with a face like that, I bet you're still lonely. Right then, Ava interrupted our conversation. Sweetheart, I'm back. Ava and Jaden both went still seeing each other, and I was kind of confused at their reactions. Ava? Jaden? Turns out, my wife used to date Jaden back in the day. This kind of blew my mind, but then again, I knew Ava had dealt with some jerk named Jaden in the past. I just never put 2 and 2 together that it would be this Jaden. Ava had once told me that he had this boyfriend who was a real piece of work. He was all charm and charisma at first, but it turns out he was involved in some seriously shady stuff and Ava had no clue about his sketchy past. Then as they got more serious, she started seeing his true colors. He was way too deep in all sorts of illegal nonsense, and Avia was not about to stick around for that because there was no way she was going to live in fear, with all the sketchiness and danger lurking around. Even though he swore up and down that he would change and showered her with declarations of love, Ava knew she had to bail. It was a tough call for her, but she knew deep down that it was the right one. Now coming back to reality, I was not the only one who was rocked to the core. Jaden's face was one of total disbelief. He was literally trying his hardest to keep it together, but one could see he was struggling big time. Well, look who it is. What are you doing here, Ava? Attending a friend's wedding. And you? Ava was very casual and straightforward with the whole thing. Same. Didn't expect to run into you here, obviously. I wouldn't have come if I knew you'd be here. Still holding a grudge, huh? I thought you'd have moved on by now. Moved on? I was the one who dumped you, Jaden, and you know exactly why. I couldn't stand by while you continued your criminal activities. Oh, please. I loved you so much and you couldn't just ignore that. Admit it, you were just too weak to handle it. Weak? No, Jaden, I was strong enough to walk away from a lowlife who brought nothing but pain and trouble into my life and his too. And what about him? You left me for him? Yes, I did. Unlike you, he isn't a criminal. He is the best man I have ever met. He treats me with respect and love, something you were never capable of. Him? Look at him. He's nothing but an ugly, scarred freak. Don't you dare talk about him like that. He's a better person than you'll ever be, inside and out. Jaden was left speechless at this. Goodbye, Jaden. Maybe one day you'll figure out how to be a decent human being. With that, Ava started to head out and gestured for me to follow after. I told her I had some words for Jaden and assured her that I would catch up with her shortly. It was fancy seeing you here, Jaden, but I would advise you to become a decent man now. What's it to you, huh? Who the heck are you to advise me? Last I heard, you were nothing but a loser. Is that what you think? Well, let me enlighten you, Jake. I've built a successful career, married the love of my life, and I'm happier than ever. While you? Nothing. Yeah, right. Like I'd believe a word coming from someone like you. Believe what you want, Jaden. But seeing you here, jobless and bitter, while I'm thriving, well, that's the best revenge I could ever ask for. And that is the best revenge I took for myself. You think you're better than me now? It's not about being better, Jaden. It's about choices. I chose to move past the pain you caused me and to rise above it and build a life I'm proud of. And you chose to stay stuck in the past, drowning in your own misery. So yeah, I am better than you. And you have no one to blame but yourself. Jaden was left totally speechless, and I loved seeing him like that. Enjoy the wedding, Jaden. I know I will. Jaden was steaming mad after the whole thing. Sure, our little chat caused a bit of a ruckus at the wedding, but I was speaking only facts and I was not about to back down from it. Later that night, Ava and I dipped out of the wedding early because we were exhausted from the whole drama. Back at home, I filled Ava in on the whole deal, how Jaden was the guy who used to bully me back in high school. She was ticked off at me for not standing up for myself when he was trash talking at the wedding. But I made it clear to her that I held my ground and didn't let him walk all over me. Hey Ava, are you okay? Not really. I can't believe you let Jaden talk to you like that. It's okay, babe. I just didn't want to cause a scene at Alex's wedding. That's not an excuse. He had no right to disrespect you like that, especially after everything he put you through in high school. I know, and I did stand up for myself and showed him his place. I just didn't want to ruin the night for everyone else. That was why I did not react in front of you. Besides, I did not want to argue with him because I knew I had won in life. I have you, a wonderful job, and all the things I love, and I am sure today seeing me like this made his blood boil, and that is enough revenge for me. I believe you if you say so, Jake. But you shouldn't have to put up with that kind of behavior, especially from someone like him. You are worth so much more than that. I promise, sweetheart, I would never let anyone downgrade me again, okay? A few months down the line, I was catching up with Alex, and he spilled the beans about what went down after we left from the wedding. Turns out, Jaden went full-on meltdown mode once the guests cleared out. He had way too much to drink, and had started threatening everyone left and right, thinking they were me or something. And then he even ended up taking a dip in the pool, making a total fool of himself. Needless to say, Alex was pretty bummed that his big day had turned into a hot mess of drama. And as for Jaden, well, His fall from grace was like nothing I had ever seen. I felt sorry for the guy, but at the same time, he brought it all on himself with his antics.